Yes, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. So,
Okay.
thank you for joining us.
Hey, how are you?
And so Sheeta, here's the situation. Dave has said that he will join us, but he's not here. So I just sent him a text to see if he forgot or what's going on.
Okay.
Francesco is in Rome, where it is like midnight. Okay, so we're actually going to record it for him, and then he can give the students his comments back when he has time to view it. Okay, so you're the only one, you know, living person that we got right. Okay, so you get all the time, right? And so I think you are very familiar with our students, and so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves here in a second. But they're working on their professional project proposals. They are probably about a week behind where I would normally want to be, through no fault of their own, right? It's all because of the big windstorm here that knocked out our power for a week and caused us to miss class. And it was a bad time to miss class because we were having all the community partners come in that day. And so we had to reschedule all that. So we're a little bit behind schedule, not trying to make any excuses for them or anything, but we are, okay? So they have some ideas that they want to share with you. They have to, they still have a few weeks to finalize their ideas and finish their proposals. So these don't have to be final proposals, they're just something to share with you and get some feedback on. Okay, all right, so with that, I'm going to start. Tyler, why don't you introduce yourself to Sheeta?
Hello, Sheeta. I'm Tyler. It's good to see you. Oh, right. I'm, yeah, I know you.
You guys have all met Sheeta before, right? I just want to refresh her memory.
Yeah, I'm the one that makes coffee. And so I'm a research assistant, and then, yeah, that's it.
Hi, Sheeta. I'm Presley. I'm a second-year grad student and also want to speak.
I can't hear you very well. I don't know. Are you far from the?
Oh,
I'm so sorry. Microphone or something. It's so.
But close to the microphone. Can you hear me better?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I'm Presley. I'm a second-year grad student. I'm with Sean's GRAs, and
Okay. I hope when you present, I can hear better because it's very difficult to understand what you are talking. Okay. Anyway, nice to meet you again. Good to see you.
Oh, it's that one. Nice.
Okay.
All right, can you hear us now? Can you hear us better?
How about now?
Oh, yeah. Well,
I'm sorry. Yes, I can hear you much better.
okay, good,
Another
good.
place. Yes, thank you so much. I just thought, oh, I can't get these things done. Okay, great. But if you are frozen in the, I mean,
Now our video's frozen?
yes, the video is frozen. But again, if you are gonna share your
All right, hold on. Let's
Slide.
see if I get that working out. It's always something.
I'm okay with, I mean,
Oh, you're right, it is
Alright, while you're
frozen.
figuring something, we use the bathroom.
Cannot start video, please.
Please
select.
select another video. I only have this one.
Well,
Hold on.
Oh, okay, it shouldn't be frozen now, give it a shot.
Gotta start.
All right,
Wait,
yeah, there we
all
go.
right.
Uh, I'll go ahead and introduce myself too, because I think we got Tyler Presley and not me, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm Dylan Sires. I work at the Tulsa Planning Office as a planner in the current planning division side of things. But yeah,
nice to meet you, Dylan.
thank you. And I'm not one of his graduate assistants. I
Oh, how could you?
the 33%, which are not part of the,
yes, which
I'm gonna have to start going to Schlotsky's. Cause what is that?
man,
That just looks like,
that's a pizza. They got pizzas, but they don't have like them on the menus really.
it looks
Okay.
like.
All right,
cheese
now the
bread.
next thing is I'm gonna try to share Dylan's presentation.
My lovely
Okay.
presentation. And this mouse is connected to there, right?
It should be. So Sheila, can you see it? All right.
Yes, yes.
And Dylan,
Yes.
can you control it?
Can you still see it? Yes, I can control it. Okay,
Woohoo!
so I am
Okay,
kind of,
let's- one
oh.
announcement before we begin. I heard from Dave, he forgot, but he's at home. Could you send me the link? So I just sent him the link.
okay.
So we'll
So
have Dave
hopefully
popping
Dave will
on.
join
Are
here in a minute.
you are recording this, right?
Yes.
Do you want me to start or? There
So
he is.
Let's just wait
He
for
is.
Dave now.
He's in.
All systems normal, all filed up, right? You know? But it's all gonna work out. I have a good feeling about this. Hi, Dave. Still connecting his audio. Okay, we gotta.
Okay.
Was thinking a lot about Dave's audio.
Oh,
doesn't
it is
want
to
said
connect
no
to
to
Dave's
Dave's
audio.
audio.
There, now I think he's there.
Oh.
Can you hear me, Dave? No,
No.
He's there, but it's not. Oh, yep.
yep, good check. How about it, Dave?
Oh, hey there,
Hey,
Hi, Dave.
how's it going?
good. We're so glad you could join us. As you can
I
see,
am too.
yeah, and as you can see, Sheeta is here, and
Yeah,
we are recording this for Francesco, who is in Rome,
okay,
right? And we are just about to start the first presentation, which will be Dylan Sires here.
okay, Dylan. How you doing?
His PowerPoint is on the share screen. And so I think we're ready to go. So let's go.
All right. So I've been
Okay.
kind of throwing around 2 different professional project ideas. But yeah, I haven't got to do a ton of research on either or. But I think definitely going to be one of these 2. So we'll start with the first one, which is the Jean Pierre Chouteau Nature Trail. This is a trail that, let me go to this slide right here. It's a 56-mile trail that follows the Verdigris River from Highway 12 just south of the Port of Catoosa all the way to Fort Gibson. It passes by a couple towns, and it hasn't gotten a lot of attention for a long time. It was pretty popular in the 80s. There was a group that actually like hiked across the US that I found online that kind of detoured to come and hike this trail.
Wow.
Yeah, so let me go to this next picture. I blew this map up a little bit. This is from Jane Ziegler at Incog provided me with this. These little green guys are the access points currently. Ways you can just kind of go and look at what the trail looks like now. But it goes through which is, what is this? So this is the Tulsa Transportation Management Area boundary, this black line here. And then it crosses through, of course, Cherokee tribal land and Creek tribal land. So I think the stakeholders would be really interesting to work with because it's a lot of different governing bodies that I'd be working with.
Yeah.
And Jane mentioned that she's already gotten some interest from just about all the stakeholders I would need to, work with people. So that's pretty exciting. I have a couple thoughts on it. Jane mentioned that, maybe directing the trail through Tallahassee might be a possibility. And I kind of thought it would be a cool idea as we come through each town or each little village. We have like little hubs, rest stops that are either one themed around those towns that it's near, or just something where they can promote some kind of small business, or maybe even some places to stay at, like a nice little hostel or hotel, or just a campground even. That would kind of, it would encourage people to, I think, try out the trail if they had safe places they could stay. But also, it would be cool to, I don't know, throw a little bit of history in your town at these little hubs. And then right at the end is the Fort Gibson mountain bike trail. So it would be kind of cool if at each one of these hubs, it kind of caters towards a different outdoor activity. So maybe, you have mountain biking here. As you get farther up, maybe it's a trail running course where trail running events can be hosted, where it will kind of bring people to, Tallahassee or OK or kind of Coweta or Wagner. It's smashed between the two. Of course, the ways to accomplish this will be working with the different tribes that have a stake, they on the land, the cities that it comes close to, and the Corps of Engineers on developing a consistent way of managing the trail. I think that was probably the issue before, is it just kind of, it didn't keep the interest to hold a consistent maintenance of the trail, as well as making changes to the trail to accommodate different activities. So previously it was really just a hiking trail. I think it has the potential to be a really cool, like, multi-use trail, not paved, of course, that's a little out there, but maybe like a light gravel that could support some gravel biking events, or something along those lines. There's a Facebook group from 2019 about saving the trail, so I'm probably going to reach out to them this week and see if they're still active. They have about 150 members in it, so that would be a group I could work with as well. This one's really exciting though. I think it'd be fun, and it's kind of what got me interested in planning and stuff in the first place, was trail design and everything. So I think this is something that I would really enjoy. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you guys have, or take any pointers from you all.
Well, what's the history? When was the trail originally built, and who built it?
Yeah, so I'm not sure when it was originally built, but my understanding from Jane was the Corps of Engineers kind of were in charge of building it and maintaining it. I think it was probably either the late 70s or early 80s that it was really built, and kind of that's when it had the traction of any interest, After that, there's not really anything. There's one Tulsa World article about it that I was able to find, but Tulsa World doesn't want to let me pay for a subscription, so I wasn't able to read it.
Also, well, not.
Yeah, it's like, hey, pay $1,
And
I
I
try.
was like,
it
all
won't
right,
let me.
okay, $1. Yeah,
But,
I had the same issue with it. That's funny.
that's definitely something I plan to look deeper in, and I should have included in the PowerPoint. I found the map off that Facebook page of the trail, and it talks about the different places throughout that had dedicated like bathrooms and showers already. So I mean, there's infrastructure surely is outdated, but there's possibilities to, revitalize those places that were once halfway popular.
Well, it's an interesting that it was built in the first place for what?
Yeah.
That's what I'm curious about, that you need to find out what was the original intent of that trail. I mean, it's obviously a cool project. It goes through some very cool and beautiful country. And I think it could be, especially with the ties to the different communities. I know people that walk the trails out in Washington State and California. There's trails that go all through the mountains, through the Smoky Mountains. And I know people that have hiked those trails specifically because they were where they were. So, I mean, this has the potential for being a tourist, if nothing else, a tourist location. If it's got some interesting things that go along with it. So, yeah.
I think a tourist location would probably be the end goal. I don't think people would want to be commuting from Fort Gibson to the Port of Catoosa, but that'd be awesome. I mean, it would give them an option if they really wanted to.
There's a trail that goes from France to Spain that goes from one cathedral to another, and all these pilgrims take this trail and stay at these bed and breakfasts and eat and drink wine. And Americans, everybody goes there because to do that pilgrimage.
Yeah.
This is probably not a pilgrimage site, but if there was some historical context, it might be a good draw for people to come and use.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a great I think it's a great project that you are interested in working on it. There are, as you mentioned, the multi-use. I think the multi-use is the great idea to use all of this. How many miles? I think you mentioned 15.
It's 56 miles is.
So are you interested in working on whole entire 56 miles or?
I mean, of course,
so many things.
Yeah, of course, that would be great. But really, maybe this just first initial area that's still in the Tulsa Transportation Management Area boundary, kind of starting here and seeing just where that goes. And maybe, I mean, I would like to be able to work on the entire thing. That would be
Well, I really think in order to make this a significant project, I mean, I understand working with a Tulsa Commuter Transportation Authority, but there needs to be a baseline historic context that you have to develop in order to make this a viable project.
And I definitely think you have a good point there with that. I think making it like have little spots of different history, whether it be about the places that you pass through or the history of the trail itself throughout the trail would be something that would draw people to come and at least hike a portion of it,
Yeah, so it's good to see like a topography of this area. To be honest, you mentioned there are some mountain over there, and I was thinking you if you wanted to use work on entire 56 miles, you have many options, many things you can do. To me, like camping, to me, like some stops after, going, I don't know how many miles, then there should be some stops for the people, or just not people they don't want it to hike. They just wanted to go as, some attractive places for people, not just for hiking for other people as well, or camping as well. And if there is a mountain, I don't know if there is any way to, I'm sure you can have a great view there.
Yeah.
You can also have like a small, again, place for people to spend, to stay there, like a small hotel or some places. And again, there are, and again, you are going, as you mentioned, you have to do lots of lots of research to first find out where it is, what is around it, what is the accessibility from other places around this trail, and how you can get most part of it. Use it the best way you can use it. And again, there are many, I'm sure you have so many examples or cases that you can take a look and get some ideas. But it's a great, and again, it's a very large project if you wanted to focus on entire 56 miles. That's up to you and Sean. If
Yeah,
but
and I
maybe
will say
maps.
there's definitely no mountain. There's a mountain bike trail.
Okay.
Oklahoma does this thing where they call them mountain bike trails, but they're more like hill trails. They build
Yes,
like hills and
okay.
you start on
Okay,
and go down.
yes.
But yeah, that's I understand the confusion. It's relatively flat. It's just along the river. I mean, I traced it out on Google Maps. And if you zoom in on Google Maps, you can actually still see. I don't know if it's an old footpath or if some people are still using it as like a horse path on occasion, but there's still some activity at least to give some kind of path on Google Earth. So
What river is it along?
I believe this is the Verdigris.
It's the Verdigris
it's the
River.
Verdigris River.
Okay,
And that's why the Corps is involved, Dave, because the Verdigris River is also AKA the Kerr-McClellan Navigation Channel that goes.
oh, okay, yeah, okay,
And, and, I just want to chime in here on my 2 bits, I love this project. I think it lets, Dylan, will let you work at a lot of different scales.
Mhm.
I think you're gonna have to work at this big giant planning scale,
Yeah.
56 miles. Plus, I'd like to see if, we've talked about Tallahassee, okay, but like I could see, kind of a spider web of links.
Yeah.
To Coweta, to Claremore, to the lake. To Wagner, maybe even to Muskogee, is not too far down there, the Batfish and all that. So it lets you do that. But I also think, it lets you, as Sheeta points out, 56 miles, if you're going to hike the whole thing, you're going to have to camp somewhere or stay somewhere. So, you could develop areas like these trailheads, camping sites. I know Jane talked about there's some problems to work out going around the Port of Inola, so it'll let you work at that scale. It also, you might be able, you can't design every inch of this, but you could maybe come up with a set of standards. Here are the trail standards that we're going to use.
Yeah.
The materials, the details.
With the-
Sheeta is a structural engineer. I'm sure that along 56 miles, I don't know how many umpteen bridges there's gonna have to be to cross all the creeks and gullies and stuff,
I
right?
should have pulled some of those in. There's some old bridges that are still kind of standing.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
are really interesting.
well, and then you've got bathroom facilities, you've got rest facilities. I'm thinking Airbnb or bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
But that way you link it to the communities that you're going past.
Mhm.
It can almost be, you go up there to hike on a Saturday and you stop in for a beer somewhere. And that links it to the economies in those communities.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think there's plenty of opportunity for community engagement. I like that idea of reaching out to the club, or friends of the trail or whatever it is. But I mean, there's different user groups, right? There's day hikers, there's long range hikers. I don't know about commuters, but maybe, right? And then there's, people on horses, people on mountain bikes, people on foot, nature hikes, there's all sorts of different user groups that could get involved in the thing. So I think it's a very promising project. Sheeta and Dave, do you have any other questions before he moves on? Because he's got a
No, I
second,
don't.
he's
I
got a
don't.
second choice he wants to show us, right?
Yes. Yeah, the only thing I was thinking, because this is a very long way, 56 mile, and I see there are some accessibility from other, I don't know, it's highway. I can't see it very well.
Yeah.
So you can have, that's a good thing that you can have accessibility from different stage, to that trail. And also I was wondering, why are you interested in this type of trail? What did, grab your attention to this type of project? Just what?
So, I mean, I just think it's really cool to have a trail, such a long dedicated trail. Oftentimes, like for people that want to go ride their bikes 50 miles, they're riding it on, dirt roads or out on the road. But to have a dedicated trail, that, you have nature views, but also small pockets of civilization, you might say. I think it's really appealing to me. And kind of,
Great, thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, and so Sheeta, the way we found out about this is Jane Ziegler and Thomas Dow from NCOG. They're the transportation planners over there, and they basically visited us and pitched the project,
Yeah.
right? And so that's how we got involved, and they will be the primary community partner. So there are many constituent stakeholders to this project that Dylan mentioned, right? And I'm sure he'll find more, but they're kind of the main partners and they've already done a lot of legwork
Yeah.
to get like the stars aligned for this. This is something that could actually happen if Dylan
That's
captures
what I
your
like.
imagination.
That's what I like about this. It's a doable project. This is something like many of the student projects that we've had in the past can turn into something realistic, and that's valuable for everybody.
Yep.
Okay, you're gonna present your other one?
Yeah, let me move on. So the other one is the Gunboat neighborhood. It's a neighborhood in downtown Tulsa. It has a lot of underutilized green space, a mix of uses. So it does have some commercial uses, but also a mix of housing types. So there's few single family homes in this neighborhood. And it really doesn't feel like downtown Tulsa. So it's like, it is within the IDL, but it still feels like a small scale neighborhood, which is pretty interesting. It doesn't have any large buildings. The vision with this would just be kind of give it a facelift. I did an observation of this a couple weeks ago. And one of the things we noticed is it was very quiet. There wasn't a lot of people walking the streets. Although there was a taco bar margarita place that we visited on each observation, and we didn't notice a lot of people running around and walking. But so one of the things we would do is better utilize the public spaces to just encourage more people to come there and hang out. One of the main points of the observation was this park in front of these apartments. They call it a park, but it's just a big open green space that the 3 times I went there at 3 different times of 3 different days, I didn't see a single person there. I saw one very large cat, but no people were out sitting. And this was right in front of I believe it was a 9-unit apartment complex and across the street from another 9-unit apartment complex.
Have you got a map? Are you gonna show us where it is? Because I'm
Yeah,
curious.
I wish I had a map.
I've got Google
Can you
Maps.
pull up Google Maps?
Yeah.
I thought I dropped one in here, but I finished this, I think, last night at a coffee place as well, so.
What coffee place?
You call it the
Gun-
gun,
Gun-
you call it the gunboat neighborhood?
Yeah, it's because it's in the shape of a gunboat. Like a navy
I
boat.
was curious. Is it an old historic neighborhood?
Yeah, it's older, definitely has some older homes. But also, like I said, really cool. Yeah, that Gunboat South Park is the one I was kind of talking about. That's just, it has the potential to be a really cool park, but you drop a little guy down there.
I'm trying.
Here. Boom. Yeah, so this park is, can you all see this?
No.
Oh.
No, we can't.
That's because I'm trying to chew gum and drive and,
I see me and I see Sheeta.
Don's the,
Hold on.
hey, lotteries. Yeah, so this is the park that I observed that just had no activity on it. But that apartment in the background, I mean, there's people living there. There's also an apartment to the left as well. And the park just wasn't used at all. It's a super interesting neighborhood.
Well, could I see a map where this, well, that's what I want to see is the context. It looks like
Oh,
some
yeah.
old traditional stuff. I'd really like to see where it sits in relationship to downtown
Can you see the plan view now, Dave?
Yes, I can, Sean.
Okay, so it's shaped like a gunboat, right?
Yes,
And then
that's very,
it has a little park on the bow and a little park on the stern, right, you know, or vice versa, I don't know which one, but,
isn't that interesting? That's really interesting.
Can you zoom out, Sean, so you can see the relation to downtown?
So I missed that part. That what do you wanted to do with these two?
Just kind of give it a update. So it's just really, it seems underutilized at the moment. For it being so close to downtown, like I said, there just wasn't a lot of foot traffic or really anything going on. There is a new restaurant that opened there just like this past year probably.
Yeah.
And it's not even in this photo. But
Oh, wow, yeah.
yeah, you're right, it's not.
Huh.
But it's just kind of underutilized space. There's a lot of open green space due to it being so close to the highway that maybe we could do like a bunch of different themed parks. There's a dog park, this one to your right. Yeah, that's a dog park currently now. Maybe making one a park for kids, maybe make a cat park because there's a lot of cats in the neighborhood. I don't know if cats like to play on toys, but that would be really cool. And another thing would be adding street lights. There's not a lot of street lights within the neighborhood. It's relatively dark. And one of the workers at that restaurant told us, it does get a little spooky at night when people start coming in and just wandering around. But that's his thoughts on that.
why is it blurred out?
I have no idea why it's blurred out.
And why is it only going to 29?
So this is,
They don't take
just,
upgrade?
I just want to note that this is Route 66, 11th Street, that goes right
Okay.
by the north end of the park.
Huh. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's a place that I never went to before I went and observed it a couple weeks ago. And me and my wife really enjoyed just walking through the neighborhood. We saw a family going to like a little community garden, which was really cool. They're just letting their kid ride their bike and they're taking their basket down there.
Where's the community garden?
It is kind of by those apartments. I don't even know if it's a community garden, but they were walking there to pick vegetables. So it was either their garden or they were stealing vegetables.
Nice.
That's an old firehouse that has been rehabbed.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, yeah. The stakeholders here would be Emily Scott with the Downtown Partnership, right? But also the neighborhood itself, the people living there. I would probably put a pretty large emphasis on the people living there rather than the commercial establishments, but not
Well,
neglect those
It
either.
looks like it looks like there's some big industrial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that building right there is a Grow Generation, which is a hydroponics store. The one to the left is a CrossFit place. Well, no, the one to the right, like the left of the building, yeah. The one right to the left of Grow Generation is a CrossFit place, and I think there's like that's a CrossFit gym. And then there's like a mixed-use office building type farther down that way, that old brick building, which is
Really cool.
it's a really interesting building. But that has all kinds of different uses. in
Yeah.
that.
Very interesting.
And there's
So,
some big open space.
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people living there.
So that's exactly what it seems like. But I mean, there's there's this apartment, there's single family homes right there. I think there's 4 on that street right there. And like I said, there's those 2 other apartment complexes there as well. So I don't think the goal would be to increase the density of it at all, but maybe just encourage people to come there more and spend time and money in this little neighborhood.
Well, you can see downtown in that picture right there. That's the church.
Yeah, so this is on the south end. This is 13th Street also, which it was once called Roosevelt Street.
Roosevelt?
Yeah, and I'm assuming after one of the presidents maybe. But you can see that, it's very close to Boston Avenue Methodist Church.
Yeah.
This is a temporary batch planter for the work they're doing on this expressway interchange. But if you go down this way, it leads
Tracy
you
Park.
down to Peoria Avenue.
Yeah.
Where you
That
can
Phillies.
connect Cherry Street and the Pearl District, and a little bit farther, Hillcrest Hospital.
Isn't Tracy Park just on the other side of this as well? I
Yeah,
think.
so Tracy Park here, I'm gonna go back to the plan view here.
Yeah, super cool
So
neighborhood.
we were just standing right here, right at the church. And then
Is-
this is Tracy Park neighborhood, right on the other side, cut off by the express.
So there is a, I mean, if you go back to the previous, where is this? Yeah. So here in the right side between this boat shape and the highways, there are some green areas here. That these are, you said they are already park?
No,
Right.
the one that's designated as a park is the one that's actually in the Gunboat. The
Okay.
Gunboat North Park and then the Gunboat South Park. But I think utilizing that green space as some sort of park or just place for people to congregate would be interesting.
I think these are development sites myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely could
Um,
be.
that's- My thought is there's a lot of missing stuff here. I mean, it's a obviously a unique shape. You can see the gunboat there.
Mhm.
But that's why I was asking about the industrial, because I see more industrial than I see housing. And
Yeah.
for a neighborhood, in my mind, for a neighborhood to be developed in a very rich way, it has to include housing.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I like the hiking trail project better.
And quite frankly, I'm starting to as well. I almost didn't even want to present this, but I was like, I might as well.
It's
No,
always
I'm glad you
Yeah.
did.
It's always good to have options. I encourage options, and so never feel bad, right? That you're gonna have to pick one. You
Yeah.
can't do two, right? But, I think it's always good to have options in place, right?
Yeah, no, you did the right thing, and I think this is an interesting alternative. I just, the hiking trail intrigues me a lot more.
Yeah.
I agree with David.
Oh, yes,
Now-
Francesco's not here, he'll probably completely
He probably,
like this one, right?
Yeah.
no, he would, yeah, Francesco would like this one.
That's what I think, yeah.
If you guys
Yeah.
are.
But
ever
that's up
here-
to you. Again, that's up
Yeah.
to you which one you prefer. But yeah, that's up to you again. And options definitely good to have 2, 3 options and then choose one. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's all I really have to say. I appreciate all the feedback you guys have given so far, and I've been writing it down as much as I can as I'm trying to talk to you guys as well, but, Yeah.
And we are recording this, so.
Oh, yeah,
I can
perfect.
share the recording with that.
yeah, I'd rather not go back and listen to myself. That's why I don't watch planning
Myself?
commissions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Okay, well-
rewatch those.
Good luck picking one out, and I can't wait to see the first presentation.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to Presley,
Woot, woot.
and she also has a PowerPoint, so I have to find it here. Find me. Is this the right one? I think it is.
I try to upload it like 3 times, so hopefully it uploaded some way somehow.
I fell asleep at my desk today like this.
This is,
Yes, thank you.
now, let me make sure I share it, right?
Do I need them
Because I didn't
to
share.
come
it.
out?
Oh, yeah, you
It's a
want
lot.
it?
Yeah.
There you go. Captain Power.
All right,
got
make sure you get it
power.
right. There's-
All right, let's see where it
You
puts
can
it.
make it full screen if you want.
Are you okay?
Oh, well.
I've got closed captions on,
What's
Uh,
happening?
and it
Not
said
touching.
Bresley.
Sean's doing it.
Participant has closed caption.
Oh, well, okay.
Oh, if you need.
But it says Bresley for Presley.
Presley for Presley.
Bresley, Bresley, L-E-Y, Bresley.
Like Elvis?
Yeah, Elvis Presley.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, can you guys see and hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So, this has like changed since yesterday, so I'll just kind of talk over the parts that have changed. But I kind of generally have this like overall idea about time banking and how it can play into urban design. So I introduced myself earlier, but my name is Presley Anderson. I'm currently working at INCOG as a community development planner and am pursuing my master's in urban design. Oops. How do I go back? Oh no. Help.
And hit the left button.
Oh wait, I see. Thanks. Okay.
It's a fancy
Gotcha.
thing.
So I don't know how familiar you all are with the concept of time banking, but essentially time banking is a system where an individual performs an act of service for another individual or a community, and they earn a time credit. And then they can then use that time credit to receive services from other members of the community. I like this cut, even though it looks like old clip art. I like this one because it kind of shows the flow of how time banking can work. So Stanley joins his neighborhood time banking. He lists all the services he can provide and all the services he would need. He, sees his neighbor needs help getting groceries, so he gets groceries for an hour and earns a time credit. He then spends it having his neighbor, perform at his, party, and the neighbor earns a time credit. And that neighbor, spends it having this other neighbor tutor his kid, and it just kind of goes all the way around, and just creates these networks. So there's different kinds of exchanges. So you can do one-on-one exchanges. So that would be like an individual providing a service to another individual, maybe like tutoring. So like a one-on-one service. It could be one-to-many, maybe one person works in the community garden. So that would be one person kind of doing a service that helps many members of the neighborhood. Many-to-one, so maybe like one of the neighbors is moving. So the whole neighborhood comes together to help them move. So that would be kind of many people helping that one person. Or many-to-many, maybe a group of people all come together and, plant a pollinator garden. So it's a group of people doing something that betters the whole group. Yeah, so the basic core values of time banking is everyone's an asset. So no matter what labor you provide, it's an asset to the neighborhood or the community. It redefines work. So the idea that it's all valued equally under the system. 1 hour of labor is going to earn you a time credit no matter what the type of labor is. It builds these social networks, respect for others, and there's a reciprocity. So it kind of creates these networks of people helping people. Why should we consider this? So I was reading, I've been reading about time banking, and I heard it I heard our system compared to us living in a fiscal monoculture, and they compare that to like depleting soil. Like maybe we've compared like crops that have been over-tilled, we haven't put any nutrients or added any, variety in the ecosystem. So it's just depleted everything. Another reason is caring labor is often left out of the GDP calculations, the housework, your roommate doing the dishes, the mom caring for the kids, that labor is often left out. We have a big fixation on money and a reduction in social networks. The system we're in right now is less resilient, and it allows more people to participate. There's a big unhoused population happening in Tulsa right now, lots of trash everywhere. In this system, those people would be allowed to participate. Nobody's asking you to verify a driver's license or an address or anything. It's more inclusive. I was reading, and they kind of described 3 different economies. So private business economy, which is an economy in the traditional sense, the core economy, which is this like caring labor, and the public purpose economy, which is kind of like the government trying to fill in where there are inequities. And so the main purpose of the private business economy, the traditional economy, is production and profits. So that's kind of what we think of traditionally with economy. Public purpose, so it'd be regulating economic activities, supplying goods where there's inequities. So it's like government, nonprofits, charitable organizations. And then the core economy, which is, survival of the everyone's well-being. It's where the social relationships are made. So caring for children, sick, maintaining homes, organizing leisure time, etc. The currency, so obviously the main currency in the private business economy is money. And a big issue is, workers should be paid for the amount of that their work adds to the employer's revenue, but they're often exploited. People are valued differently. Money and volunteer hours is often where the public purpose economy uses to exchange. And in the core economy, the transactions are in just like networks of trust. So time banking in action. So these were 3 examples that I thought were really cool. This one was a repair cafe. So in this time bank, people would take their old electronics and members of the time bank would try to fix them. So I thought that was cool because it was kind of like reducing like the obsolescence of like machines. People would be throwing things away less because they'd have people to repair them. This Partners in Care. So that kind of was used for like providing elderly care in Maryland. And this Parent Support Network of Rhode Island was kind of used to provide childcare to members in this network. So time banking and urban design. So I think time banking can be used in all these cool ways, but I'm kind of more focused for my project, how it can be used to maintain public spaces. And then another question that kind of came up as I was thinking about this is if there's certain development patterns that are more suitable for these nurturing networks of reciprocity. So I'll get into that in a second. So I was thinking like, how feasible would so this is just a park in my neighborhood. And I was thinking, how feasible would this be to maintain, be maintained by a time bank? So this is just like metrics I made up. These aren't like finalized, but it's like how much costs, how much labor time, are there any special skills required? Is there any special equipment needed? How often is maintenance needed? Those sorts of things. And then I can make an overall maybe feasibility of how feasible a space would be to be maintained by a time bank, if that makes sense. And then when I was thinking about geographic location, it led me to this idea of Tulsa's development patterns. So you can kind of see here, Tulsa, started in the downtown area in the 1900s, 1930s. We have these like streetcar neighborhoods. And you can see, their network patterns. It's like shorter blocks, more mix of uses. 1950s, we get these early automobile pattern, street pattern where, we're starting to see like less connectivity, more uses pushed to the outskirts. And then late automobile, we got the cul-de-sacs, all these like loopy roads and like every, commercial thing is like pushed to the outskirts. So I was kind of curious, are there different places in Tulsa that might maintain a time bank better? Does these development patterns, play a role in this? So then I was thinking as the time bank grows, maybe I can make a heat map of maybe where there's lots of users or maybe where there's lots of hour exchanges, and that would be cool information. A population growth map, I think would be cool visualization to see. So some next steps. I was looking at platforms. So this has changed because I have actually, yesterday I spoke with the director of timebanks.org. I thought this platform called Our World was one that can convert to this software. So the software they use is called Community Weaver, but told me, she's like, wait, they said that their software converts to ours. I was like, yeah. She's like, well, that's not true. So forget that I wrote that. And then this one, some pros and cons. So this one's free, but not at all user friendly. This one has some service free fees and they have different subscriptions. This one was really cool, but I messaged the developer and was like, hey, I'm interested in, doing a time bank. Is this app still working? And they emailed me back and they said, no, sorry, it was costing us $1,500 a month. So we had to stop doing, the app. So I feel like this one's kind of, where I'm leaning towards right now, because with the free ones, I feel like I run an issue of it not being user friendly, or, it goes under because it's costing too much on the developer side. So I would say received an email and spoke to this person is where I'm at with that. Trainings and research. So there's this resource called the Time Bank Knowledge Commons. So they have some good FAQs and stuff like, oh, what do you do if you don't like the service? Like, what if your neighbor gave you a haircut and you hate your haircut and stuff like that? So I thought it was just a good resource. And since I've spoken to the director of Time Banks USA or timebanks.org, she also gave me a lot of resources as well that I need to start listing. And I should list her too, because she also had good information and was willing to be an open line of communication. So some branding. So I was looking at other time banks and I see this theme of clocks, you know, this kind of reciprocal, kind of circular pattern. And this was just me making this on the slides, but I was like, oh, Tulsa's flag. We kind of have something that could look like a clock, maybe some reciprocity, some circular stuff going on. So that's kind of what I was playing with on this slide. So growth phases. So there's this neighborhood called Crosby Heights in Tulsa, and they've shown interest in time banking, and they have a lot of neighborhood projects that, you know, they need people to do. And so I've spoken to them and they, you know, have a level of interest. I've also spoken with Emily from Downtown Tulsa Partnership, and she thinks this is also a great idea that can be used. And she also mentioned, because I mentioned wanting it to improve like parks and spaces, and she would also throw out like, ooh, like buskers, like performers and artists, like this would also be cool, you know, to improve the space in that way. And so I was thinking like start small, kind of, you know, pivot and test, and then expand out. We've also mentioned there's this area of downtown called the Justice District, which I hate that name, but it's like where the cluster of social services are. So maybe they kind of depend on a lot of volunteer labor for some of their social services. So maybe reaching out to them next. And then, you know, the next phase is to be determined. You know, maybe we only keep like, maybe it only gets to this smaller level, but I'm still be interested to see how it grows. So the deliverables, you know, the proposal to be completed in, you know, not 3 to 4 weeks, but, you know, even sooner, I guess, a booklet, and then, yeah, 2 weeks. And then hopefully a working, functioning time bank would be really cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then here's some of the articles I read, and yeah.
So I'm sitting here trying to think about how time banking could fit into a community. Obviously, we're all talking about homelessness. Every city has a problem with homelessness, where to house them, how to feed them, how to, you mentioned something about what could homeless people do to make some money or to get some services that if they did cleaned up this park or cleaned up this street, they'd be able to eat at this restaurant, or stay at this place. So I see a lot of potential, but it needs to, you know, again, how do you focus this into a manageable project?
Yeah.
Is where I see the issue, because, and that I guess is, how quickly can you define what the timeshare, what is situations, what activities, what actions are time banked, and then how do you test that? Again, you know, the key to me is how do you test that in a community? How do you actually set up a study session or a work study session?
So sorry. So I was going to say, so I'm leaning towards timebanks.org because they already have a platform, but on the admin side, it does have where you can, it shows you like the data of like how many users, you know, you've acquired in the past, you know, month, quarter, year. And then they have the labor kind of broke, like the labor hours kind of broken down, like, you know, childcare hours, you know, garden hours. And so then I could kind of use that. I was thinking that would be really valuable kind of data. And then I could see like, oh, maybe this neighborhood, you know, we get a lot of people who are really good at childcare, but nobody's really gardening or picking up trash. So if I'm expecting a time bank to maintain a park in that neighborhood, it's not going to happen because nobody's doing that. But if I'm like looking at the data and seeing like, oh, you know, like a lot of people in this neighborhood are really good gardeners. Everyone goes out and picks up trash. You know, if we started a community garden, there's a good chance everyone would maintain it because that's what's going on in this neighborhood. So I'm thinking that like information would be valuable.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
So I'm just gonna interject, Dave, I just pulled up on Google Maps. This is Crosby Heights neighborhood over here, this kind of triangle. And
It's not.
it is just to the west
Right in between.
of downtown Tulsa. And
Yeah.
this area that you're calling the Justice District has most of the services for the in-house population. So it's divided by this highway, but it's close by. The neighborhood is, there's a large park down here on the south side next to the river. It's kind of cut off by these railroad tracks. And so I just wanted to give you that so you have a little geographic,
Okay.
familiarity, right?
Okay, that's good. That's
Yes.
it seems like a manageable area. And well, I'll be very curious as to see how you define timeshare, individual timeshare activities. That'll be interesting.
So Presley, give Dave and Gina some examples, because we met with a couple of the members of the board of the neighborhood association.
Right.
And they got one, I'll let her tell it, but I mean, they got one that I think go right away, and then several other really promising ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the first one they kind of mentioned is doing some curb painting for the numbers, outside of like the houses. Like right now, firefighters, can't find any other houses because none of the curbs are painted. And so they've already
Right.
got the paint, they've already got the stencils. Really, all they need is like the neighborhood to come together and provide this labor, to get that going. And so when I spoke to the lady with Time Banks USA, I was like, but really, like, how do you start it? And she was like, I would suggest, doing an open house or like a kickoff event, and that would be like your soft launch. And so since we've already identified some projects, that the whole neighborhood or that the neighborhood is interested in doing, I was thinking that would be a cool soft launch. Like that might be a good soft launch after.
Okay,
doing
that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great project. For me, I have to digest it exactly what you are gonna go exactly in each area that you mentioned. So to understand it, to be honest.
Sure.
I'm looking for, if you are interested in this type of work, then I would love to see what would be your next step to see exactly what you would do. And then from this data that you are going to get, how are you going to analyze it and get to a conclusion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to like hone in on that kind of piece of it, but really like I think the piece I'm more like most interested in, because there's different, ways people can earn time credit. So I'm interested in like kind of tracking how people interact with like the parks and spaces. And so to see if that could be a way to like maintain, like improve the neighborhood and the community, and kind of using that data in that sense. I guess is where I'm kind of going with it right now.
So
Are you,
go ahead, Dave.
are you gonna do some like survey, or how do you get this type of data? How do you get those?
I wish I had like a screenshot. I don't know if I could find it. So I'm like hoping to like, lock in the platform of where people would use it. So timebanks.org, you'd register your time bank, you would like put in, pay the service fee or whatever. And then at the top, it has like request a service, provide a service. And so then when you kind of do that from the admin side, so I would be the admin, administrator who would set it up, I can see the number of transactions. And so I was thinking just making like, like a graph of some kind to show like, oh, here's like labor hours over time. Here's like users interaction over time. Here's some like heat spots in the neighborhoods and around the city where people are using this. And then I think it might just be valuable, even just to see like the different, like urban patterns, like, oh, this part of town, where we have like these short blocks, more walkable parts of town. These are where we get lots of interactions. Whereas over here in the suburb cul-de-sac land, not a lot of, just speculating, it might not be that case.
Yeah, well,
Where there's not a lot. So it'd be more research based than design based.
Yeah,
I guess.
there's a lot of research needed to do something to identify
Sure.
the timeshare, time bank activities. Yeah, but I think once you do that,
Yeah.
and then with the program or the software, obviously you have to have an administrator
Yep.
that would, I don't know, it seems like the city ought to have someone. Do some cities are there cities that have time bank administrators already?
Yeah, the lady was telling me that there's some cities that have a person that's a full-time administrator for their time bank. I don't know that Tulsa's quite there yet. And that's another
but-
reason I was going for like a software, because I was like, oh, if I make it all in like Excel or like, Google Forms, like I'd have to do all the legwork. Whereas this is something, it might be a fee, but I'd rather go that
Well,
route and have it
And
kind of.
you really need to have information you need to identify those communities, contact them and see how they do it. I mean, that's how you're
Yeah.
gonna figure out what'll work and what won't.
Yeah,
And each city's different, so what works in one place may not work in another place. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be important to have that kind of data.
yep. I
Okay,
agree.
so I want to move on because we're gonna run out of time, but I do want to give him one poke here at Presley of my own.
Oh, boy.
Right? And that is, I think, you probably need to have this web tool, okay?
Mhm.
But this project to me is a much more, boots on the ground, active oriented thing.
Yeah.
So are you prepared to go out and spray paint numbers on the curb?
Yeah.
Are you prepared to go knock on doors? There's, we heard from the neighbors that there's certain, neighbors that don't use technology.
Sure.
And so like, I don't want you going in thinking, well, it's just like I'll set up this nice little website and it'll run itself, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you are, I just want to make sure that, you're okay with all this other, kind of hands-on stuff.
Yeah, I would say I'm okay with it. I helped Crosby Heights do their community or their pollinator garden. I'm definitely down for some of that boots on the ground, tactical urbanism labor, and figuring out a way for it to be accessible to people who don't use technology.
And having that experience, I think, is important. That's what'll make this work.
Sorry, I missed that.
I said, having this experience, that experience already makes this project, I think it makes it more successful.
Okay,
You're not going into this with an idealized view of what you can do. So that's good. That's important.
I totally agree, and I think it's a great pilot project, if Tulsa does want to go down this path to show them that it can work, right? And it's a capacity building.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right, Tyler.
Yep.
I'm gonna bring
On it.
Tyler up, he's on Canva, you all, so give us, if you guys wanna take a couple minutes, it's gonna take me a minute to get, Tyler set up.
And who's that? This chair.
is that your chair?
Yeah. James.
He's still logged in.
Yeah, get out of there. Oh, you're lying. Yeah,
We could have had all the James ever.
I was like. Yeah, Tyler, that coffee place I went to yesterday was pretty good.
Where was it?
It was right by the Mother Road Market. You
Oh,
know
that's
that little,
corner?
yeah,
Okay.
they have a really nice plaza
It's,
by the stoplight. I'm really glad they didn't park
it's
out there.
it's a Jewish deli.
Yeah. They have coffee though. I will say their sandwich was outrageous. And okay,
Price.
yes, I was like,
They're following in, falling in line with,
Now, let's get you sharing. before we go back to us. Out there, then they'll be able to see. It looks like she is taking a break, so wait for her to come back and then we're good to go.
We do.
Our luxurious living room.
You know, I thought that was real at first. I was like, oh my god.
The what?
I thought her living room was real. at
Yeah, I
first.
know.
When she first
Yeah.
popped on, I
That
was
was
like,
wild.
I think it's some library or something.
I don't know what it is, but I love it.
Pretty nice, whatever it is.
I
Yeah.
would drink myself a mean cup of tea.
Barbie's dream house.
Speaking of Barbie Street.
Everything's gonna be Barbie.
I'm
There it
going to
is.
see Barbie this week.
I've seen Oppenheimer this weekend.
I might see both.
I want to go see Barbenheimer.
I want to go see Barbie. So this is what I want to do. I want to go see Oppenheimer at like, wait, no, hang on, wait. Yeah,
Friday
I'm
night,
gonna wake up.
Friday night Oppenheimer.
What?
Friday night Oppenheimer.
Yep. I want to wake up. I don't smoke cigarettes, but I want to wake up, drink black coffee, smoke a cigarette for breakfast, go watch Oppenheimer.
Put on
Then
your
eat lunch,
raincoat.
Dress in pink and go see Barbie.
Yes.
That sounds like
Well,
a good.
Bro, let's
weekend.
do
I,
it.
don't
I
smoke
went and I went and saw Mission Impossible last weekend. What a great movie.
cigarettes.
You don't get much more action than Mission Impossible.
You really don't.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
That's-
You're getting a lot of Tom Cruise action.
Wick, John Wick is pretty action
I can't
packed.
stay awake.
Oh, yeah, well,
Just like
yeah,
nonstop, just.
it's just raw violence. John
That's true.
Wick
That's
is just
exactly what it is.
raw violence.
It is absolutely just that.
All right, well, speaking of raw violence, here's Tyler.
Destroying the neighborhood. All right, so there's 3 different ideas that I have, and I'm gonna start with the one that I've put more thought into more than any other thing. This is the Kirkpatrick Heights development. It's already going on in my neighborhood. Essentially there's some goals, show you where the space is, cast a vision for it, look at the financials of it, and kind of go from there. What this is basically talking about the redevelopment that's happening at the intersection of Main Street here in Tulsa, John Hope Franklin, and Boulder, which is referred to as the 5 Points. There's a wedge right there that is all of that land is under review from TDA and Partner Tulsa. They have not yet done a request for qualifications or proposal because they're still trying to figure out how they're going to parcel out the land that they got back from OSU Tulsa. It is currently nestled on on what is Cherokee allotment. But Partner Tulsa is building out a lot of development on Greenwood, which is to the east of this neighborhood. And they're making a connection between all of the neighborhoods and downtown, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is I've got me as the owner of the building, which I'm wanting to build, which is essentially a manufacturing facility for my coffee business. Shane, who's a friend of mine that works for W Design, Nick Lombardi, who sort of pessimistic, real cool guy. Like him though. He does the real estate development course 1 and 2, and then Sean, head of the urban design studio here.
Magician of
Yeah.
development and numbers.
This project is way too self-serving. I can't agree with this. I can't go on with this. Making a coffee manufacturing plant. Come on,
Yeah.
do something outside your area of comfort.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get there. We're getting there.
Okay. Okay.
So the space is right here, which is on this is, like I said, the 5 Points intersection. They're wanting to build out a roundabout right there. And then, like I said, they don't exactly know what all of this development is going to look like. This is just what the accepted plan for Kirkpatrick looks like right now. When you walk outside of Kane's Ballroom and you take a look to the north, this is exactly where it is. This is 244 right here. The Museum of Pop Art is right here. If you walk up the road and take a look, this is what that wedge looks like. The Salvation Army is right here. Every Tuesday and Thursday between 9 and 11, they have an awesome auction. It's amazing to me how much stuff they sell. They never run out of stuff. It's wild. The distance from Kane's Ballroom right here, just on an aerial, and then this is that entire wedge. this is also my neighborhood. And so I've lived here, I've lived in this area. I lived right over here for a couple of years. And then I've lived just to the north down here for about another 6 or 7 years. So I've been here for a while. This is another look at where the wedge would be. And then you've got a lot of multi-use buildings, a lot of retail, a lot of entertainment, community park, stuff like that. Blah, blah, blah. So my idea for this is to build there we go. A roastery and living space. Just to the north of where this wedge is the state's only public Montessori. On that Montessori, there's an organization called the Joinery that basically manages, it's a nonprofit, and they manage all of the garden that the school grows, and they teach the kids how to grow all this different produce. They compost from everybody in the neighborhood as well. And the idea for this is to have a rotating seasonal purchasing a lot of the food from the Montessori, and then also taking all of the spent coffee grounds so that they can reuse them for fruit trees and stuff like that, and part of their compost. A lot of it helps with warding off insects too, which I didn't realize, but they loved having as much as I can give them. And so on that wedge, having a combined roastery, retail space, and living space above, what I'd like to do is move all of my roasting and manufacturing, instant coffee manufacturing business into the neighborhood, hire people from the neighborhood, buy produce from the neighborhood, and essentially help to create a microeconomy. And then essentially be able to purchase all of our groceries and stuff at Oasis, which is 2 miles, 1 mile north, 1 mile east of us. It's the closest grocery store. And then there's a grocery store opening up downtown as well. But the hope is to be able to train people in this roastery so that they can have an idea of how to build a brand for themselves. Like Fulton Street Books and Coffee, they're one of the first people that we've talked to about doing this, training them how to use it, and then renting space out to them, having educational events at the space as well. It serving as a community sort of place to go and sit, read, do homework, or have meetings, have whether it's campaigning for people or whatever. And then having livable spaces above it as well. Since we're working with OFA on doing a housing needs assessment right now, some of the understanding for subsidized housing, being able to utilize the tax credits there to have space for people to live that does not cost $1,500 for 400 square feet, which is what is happening in the neighborhood currently. And so one of the biggest goals for me out of doing this, besides obviously I need a space for my business, this has been a dream of mine for about a decade now. Besides that obvious factor, is to be sort of a cornerstone for what development in the neighborhood looks like. Having specific incremental development rather than having development that a developer comes in, sets up shop, and has a 10-year life expectancy of whatever buildings they build, apartments or whatever. And instead of creating an investment like that and then selling it in 6 years from now, essentially creating this investment and then keeping the investment in the neighborhood or selling it to a land trust. That part has not been worked out yet by TDA or Partner Tulsa. But they've hired an organization to navigate what it looks like to have a trust. And so essentially the trust would be the one selling parcels. And if the trust wanted to purchase the building back, then that's essentially what it would look like over time. I imagine it would be a 2-year timeline from once they actually issue out a request for proposal and if a bid is accepted. Obviously there's risks. if there's any, you know, leaving or anything like that, if any of the tenants, which is primarily going to be myself in the bottom, if I leave, it's set up for a whole bunch of other businesses, including a kitchen, manufacturing facility. And so, yeah, most of this is already written down on a in my Excel sheet for what a pro forma could look like for this. So costing everything out, I did at the most expensive rate per square foot. Is this a viable business? And it is. So Sheeta, it would appear you are the only person left.
Yeah, well, we dropped Dave. I'm hoping he'll be able to jump back in, but we can listen to Sheeta for the time.
Yeah, so let me understand. So you have a like a lots or something, am I right? And you plan to have your business, establish your business there, and in the second floor you have a living area, am I right?
This is correct.
Okay. So I was gonna, first of all, the Excel sheet you showed, it's too many numbers that is not clear to me. However, I like numbers and stuff, but definitely you are going to have a better presentation later on when you gather everything. So it's kind of, you are working as David said, it's like you're doing something for in your area, it's not something new or something that you are gonna actually explore, or maybe, I don't know, I'm not gonna change your mind, but the thing is, then you are gonna focus on the urban design or on the architecture of your building. What is exactly, I wanted to know how this project relates to the goal of this project that's supposed to be, that Sean actually is looking for. As a project.
I think for me, a lot of this has to do with placemaking and taking a lot of the things that I've learned in this program so far and employing it. Which so far, some of the primary things that I have learned do have to do with real estate development. But I think that there's a difference in real estate development strictly for the sake of profit and revenue, and real estate development in the sense of an investment in my community, and being able to provide something to the community that is of the community and for the community. Like I said, being able to hire people from the neighborhood, and then being able to spend money with people in the neighborhood also, to allow all of our community meetings to be organized in a central space like that. Not to mention.
So you think that's the good location for the purpose of your design? I mean, that's a good location.
I think it's an incredible location. Absolutely. Especially with talks of the highway coming down. I don't know if that's going to happen in the next 10 years, but that's something that if the highway comes down, if this building is built, the value of this particular building is going to increase so much that by selling it back to, well, essentially selling it back to the land trust is kind of what I'm hoping to do, but it also is if it is the first thing that's planted there, then it sets the tone for whatever else is going to be developed. So that's kind of what my goal is with it.
Yeah, I think definitely, I was joking before, and I can see how your project is kind of an example, in process example of what you're trying to accomplish. But I definitely think you need to expand your base study area and include whether it's just that corner or the whole neighborhood, to see how this project is an example for other projects. Somehow there needs to be a broader scope view of what this project is about.
Sure.
So Tyler, can you go back to the little 3D massing model, that one, right there, hold
Yep.
it right there, okay? So, this comes from the, Kirkpatrick Heights, master plan, that, was, I guess, I don't know if it's completely adopted or not, but I mean, it's sort of in the process, right? Presley, were you gonna say something there?
I think it's been adopted.
It's been adopted, right? But I mean, they haven't stood up like. There's no RFP,
Nothing.
right? There's no, nothing.
They're working with they're working with that firm first to try to figure out if they can do a land trust and how that would
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, so I think that's gonna be key, right? Like, and then
Right.
maybe you could work with them. But what I want to point out is that all those little buildings there, none of it exists. Okay,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's
And-
right.
And not only does none of it exist, but the building that Tyler picked is probably the most consequential site in the entire development, right? And I say that because of its, kind of prominent location at the end of Main Street where the streets split off, right? That go, Main and Boulder split off. And so it's a Flatiron building. It'll be a landmark. It's gonna have a major public space in front of it. He's pointed out how close it is to, Kane's Ballroom, the Oklahoma Pop, the school, various other, important, connections. And so I guess what I would say, I agree with you, Dave. What I would say is that, at the very least, you need to design that public space, Tyler, that's in front of the building, right? And the building's very important. And Dylan, I'll get to you in just a second because he's ready to jump in here.
Yeah.
And I just want to also add that I would think about, particularly if you're thinking about selling it to the land trust, not just what you're planning to use it for, but like what it could be used for in the future for
Right.
other uses.
Mhm.
All right, Dylan.
Kind of going off of
That's
that.
what I was saying, Sean. That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Kind of going off of that, so there's a farmer's market starting in downtown Tulsa. Near Greenwood. And you could either test how it would be as a community space. I mean, of course, you have to get permission on who owns it to use it for a weekend for a farmer's market. Or in the design of your building, you could, or the building or that space, that central space. Maybe that could be a designated spot for the farmer's market, because even the one in Kendall Whittier, it doesn't have a designated spot. So if you really want to create a place for your community to gather consistently, maybe including a space for that market would be something.
Let me tell you something about that idea, Dylan. That's a great idea.
It is, I like this. I would say make it like a little open air hall where it's still maybe covered in
Yeah.
case it rains.
Well, and that's actually, so on the back side of the building, one of the first iterations of drawings that I had for it. Let me see if I can. There we go. So see how there's the wedge building right here, and then there's a second building right here. And this is just the master plan. This is just them, throwing out stuff and trying to figure out what looks good. Well, one of the ideas that I had is this would be all of the manufacturing and stuff, and there would be some livable space above, but then this would be all of the, even more manufacturing, but for different things and or retail, and having an awning in between them that would be sort of like that covered sort of open air area.
Like a bazaar type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So what I want to add here on this, I think you can see my mouse moving around here. You've got this little blue rectangle here.
Mhm.
I think your blue rectangle should be this big,
Yeah.
I like that.
okay?
That's
Yeah,
easy.
the whole 5 points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. Tyler, look, you got another idea, so let's go.
Yeah,
on
I
to
got
that
more
one.
ideas.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and again, I will say, this is the first idea. This is the idea that I came into the program with. So, there's not a lot of, boom. Not a lot of other things that I can show you because the last ideas haven't really been fleshed out at all, but so this is the IDL in downtown. One of the other ideas that I had is Tulsa used to have a really cool streetcar program. And Presley actually had a map, and one of the pictures on it had where the streetcars were, and I have been struggling to find that, so I don't know why I didn't ask you if I could just use that,
I'll
but
share it.
thank you, I appreciate that. But that being said, there's a really cool map of where the streetcars used to go. And so in thinking about what Downtown Tulsa Partnership is trying to accomplish in ownership in the downtown area, it's tough to have ownership in downtown Tulsa when all of it is just parking lot. And so one of the things that I was thinking is if you eliminated the need for people in surrounding neighborhoods to drive into downtown Tulsa and park anywhere, which, you know, they're already close most of the time, they probably don't necessarily need to drive to downtown Tulsa, but if you created a way for them to get into downtown Tulsa and to get out of downtown Tulsa that was much quicker, like a streetcar system or a trolley system or a jitney system, then that's something that would be really beneficial because it would take a lot of the burden of parking off of downtown Tulsa, and people who are visiting downtown Tulsa could have an easier time finding parking spots. Not that it matters because most of the time people are just trying to park immediately in front of the spot that they're going. But if downtown Tulsa is going to be developing as much as they say they're going to be developing, then it would be really beneficial to have a streetcar system or something like that. Not necessarily something that has built-in, you know, rails in the roads or the wires that hold onto the cable cars or anything. But, you know, I see these bicycle bars all the time, and they are motorized. And I think that if there was something like that that could help to go through the surrounding neighborhoods at specific intervals, that could be something that's incredibly beneficial. Also, Downtown Tulsa Partnership has people who are basically who are paid to just go hang out and clean the downtown area and keep up with it. So I think that it would be reasonable to partner with them, Transportation Commission here in town, or Tulsa's transportation, and then yeah, just see if it would be sensible to put in a streetcar system. But not a streetcar system. I don't know what to call them. I'm still trying to figure out what in the world to call them.
We were talking about jitneys,
Yeah.
right? And so the thing with jitneys are that they the jitneys have flexible routing, right? It's not like building a streetcar that has you know, rails set with stops.
Yeah, there's already public transportation around the area. Obviously, you've got a Greyhound in there, and you've got the public transportation that's across the street from the library, the buses. But a lot of the time, they don't go well. They don't always. There's not a lot of it. It's not great. The timing of it's not awesome, and you know they. For my friends who rely more on the public transit, they hate it because they say that they're not actually reliable. So having more that is catered specifically to the downtown area and surrounding neighborhoods could be something that's, I think, beneficial for downtown.
I'm not a big, that's a big, broad topic, you know. It seems like a real generally randomized, I don't know. The first project, which you spent more time thinking about, obviously, because you haven't really spent any time thinking about this project, to me has more meat and potatoes. It has something that you can grasp in a community base, especially a needy community, that has got some defined elements and realistic elements to it that I think would be a more appropriate project.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe you haven't had a chance to focus on this one more than previous one. But yeah, I agree with David. I see more in the other project than this one. But again, maybe if you go deeper on this project, maybe you have more stuff to, you know, maybe it's more interested for you. It's yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I
You
think
thought
it's
this
just
one-
too broad scope.
Do what?
I think it's just too broad scoped
Okay.
Mhm.
for the kind of project that I see being done in the urban design studio over a full year.
Mhm.
If you think that's too broad of a scope, let me introduce you to my third idea.
Okay.
The chief of staff, Blake Ewing, he came in and had different ideas about well, some of the things that, you know, he'd been working on, James had been working on, some of the things that the city is, you know, considering working on right now. One of the things is that they just started their new design studio under the city. And so especially being able to partner with the urban design studio here, Blake is wanting to make that connection. And there's a few different ideas that he presented, nothing that was really fleshed out, but just sort of thinking through some different ideas that we could navigate together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do what?
I said, yeah.
Yeah. So one of those things was to work on the intersection of Route 66 and Riverside, which is or Southwest Boulevard and 12th Street. It's where Crybaby Hill is. Do I have a?
I don't know where that is.
Yeah, there we go.
Do you have more slides, Tyler, or can
No,
I?
no,
bring
this
up-
is it.
can I bring
Yeah,
up
this is it.
the
Go ahead.
maps? 'Cause I can actually show the
Yeah.
slide
I
on
think I
that.
can understand Crybaby Hill because it's really cool.
It
spot.
is really cool.
I've never
The-
been there when the Crybabies are out, but I want to go.
Oh, you
I've never been.
You should experience it once.
Yeah, well,
you should experience it
it's
once.
just me and Sandy.
So
Need a group.
basically Route 66, there's a development. They've already put out a request for proposal on. And it was already approved, but then the people who were approved backed out of it because the amount of money, there it is. Oh,
You gotta get it so they can see it.
oh, right.
Just bear with me here, the lot of buttons to click.
Yeah, so Crybaby Hill is right there. Awesome. Yeah. And so you've got the intersection of Route 66 there and Riverside where the Cyrus Avery Centennial Plaza is. So that parking lot, all of that, the city owns that. And they're wanting to develop it to be partially a museum and partially some retail, like a hotel or, you know, a restaurant, something like that. So that's an idea. And they were wanting to connect it further along the river by at least a couple of miles. So that's an idea that he had on that one. Another wild hair that he had was to basically connect the Cyrus Avery Centennial Plaza all the way to the northwest side of all of those highways with a bridge, which would be wild to connect that neighborhood over.
Which is Crosby Heights.
Yeah.
Well, those those are more design projects. More architecture projects. I don't see those as being urban design. Well, they could, but I mean, those are some real specific elements
Mhm.
that are defined as a project. Again, I think the concept that you have for your original site is a little bit more broad scoped in the urban setting and the community setting. A bridge is a great idea, a hotel, museum, you know, whatever. Those are real specific projects. And I guess what you'd have to do is figure out how they fit in as an urban design project, how they improve the neighborhoods or improve communications or connections or whatever. I see them as being too tightly defined.
Sure. Sean, would you mind scanning up just to where the Justice District is? The Justice District that we had mentioned earlier, I think Presley was mentioning it, includes a chunk of Salvation Army, the Day Center, all of
Yeah.
that. It is just to the west. It abuts the Arts District on Archer, which is right there. So there's tons of development going on Archer, which is just to the south of the first project that I mentioned. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that Blake is really wanting to do is I don't even know what his I don't think he necessarily knows what his goals are for working alongside Salvation Army and the Day Center and stuff over there, but essentially trying to connect the Justice Center to the Arts District, which would include a lot of working with folks who are unhoused. So a cool facet of that would be bringing in another discipline. So bringing in the folks from the social work department and sort of figuring out like, well, I the way that I sort of envision this is if you're trying to give people places and roles, then working not only with the social work department, but also with people who already do that. And Downtown Tulsa Partnership is I think a prime example of being able to just grab people, give them jobs, and then, you know, giving them specific roles if they're so interested. But I think that's where the social work aspect comes in a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting project.
It's interesting.
So I'm gonna be blunt about this one. Now Blake didn't say this, but here's my take on this. Okay? They got a bunch of homeless people out on the street, camping out on the street, wandering over the Arts District, and that's a problem. Sure. Okay?
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that you know, I don't know if design can solve the problem, right? And that's, you know, that's sort of the interesting question here. What is design's role in a problem like this?
I will say, I think this area has a lot of hostile architecture, like they have all these social services, but not really any good plazas, places for people to sit, and it's not as welcoming. So I think a design element would help the neighborhood, but yeah, I
Well,
get that point.
and I mean, the Arts District just put in these,
Yeah, look, it's definitely designed more for cars than the people they're serving.
oh yeah, for sure. The Arts District just built some these, I don't know, they're little planters, but yeah, exactly.
Is that Iron Gate?
It's Iron Gate, yeah. Which
I
is
thought they actually have an Iron.
What is that building?
that's where you can go get food and stay.
The soup kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's nice. It's a horrible neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wish it has some shade for the people.
Can you do a 360 behind you? Or 180, not a 360. That's the opposite.
360.
So go back up Archer. One more. Yeah. Okay, so or no, actually,
This looks very hostile.
I agree.
yeah, it does. It's barren. And a lot of
Yeah.
that is because they built the prison, they just built that prison behind the camera here.
That's the
Like
jail.
all of this. Yeah.
Jail. Not a prison.
Well,
Well, there's a big difference between a jail and a prison. Most of the people in a jail haven't been convicted.
You know, that neighborhood is extremely anti-human.
yeah, okay. So then
Look at
you
these walls, right?
yeah, there's 0 windows. And if you look on the corner right there, there's bail bonds,
A lot of predatory businesses.
tons of predatory.
Oh, yeah.
And then right here. So on the other side of this affordable bail bonds, there's the Highland Dairy, which is they just sold, or well, they're selling. And there's a or yeah, there it is.
Cool building.
Really, it's a great building, but there's a juice company that's buying it and using it because it's yeah, it's essentially designed for what they do anyways. So you've got and so you'll see this right here which is the David L. Moss, what is it? A jail?
It's the
Is
jail.
that the jail? And then directly on the other side of it, you've got the Arts District. You've got the BOK, which is quote unquote the
Right.
Arena District right there up the road. And you've
Right.
got this intersection where you've got all of these businesses. Yeah, go to the left here. Yeah. And so you've got the arts, Tulsa Arts Theater. You've got the Saturn Room, which is a tiki lounge. You've got some insane development that's going on just to the north, which is to the left here. All of that stuff's about to get developed. And a lot of that is Sharp development. Some of it's David Cherney from Capital Homes. But the Arts District has tons of businesses, a tech school that's over there, 36 degrees north that they're building. So it's the juxtaposition between the Arts District and the quote unquote Justice District is I like a huge irony. So I think that, you know, obviously there's design aspect that it
Oh.
needs, but there's also, I think, that collaborative aspect of not only understanding, you know, the design aspect and how that can relate,
Right.
but also connecting with the Arts
I'm
District.
gonna cut you off, Tyler. I think we've got a flavor of it.
You're right.
I want to respect everybody's time.
Oh, right, sorry.
We've already gone over about 20 minutes, and so I'm gonna give Dave and Sheeta an opportunity for some closing comments on this one, and then we'll let them go, right?
Well, obviously the first project that you presented is the one that I think is most serious as far as long as you do what Sean and I said in terms of expanding what is influential in creating the buildings on that corner in that neighborhood. That to me is where you need to put your energy.
Yeah. Cool.
And it looks like, I don't know if you can see me, it looks like I'm laying on my bed, which I am. I was down to 10% and my plug for my cell phone is right next to my bed.
That's the story of my life, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
me too. I through these three project that you introduced, I go with the first one. Okay.
Cool.
Okay,
And I expect you to ship me some instant coffee to Arezzo when I'm
Yeah.
teaching them.
Yeah. See, that's the one I was waiting for right there.
That's it. You can put
All
it in a box and ship it HDL and I'll have it in 3 or 4 days.
Deal.
so Dave and Sheeta and Francesco up in the ether there.
In the
I
cloud.
just wanna thank you all, and you know, I think you know what's gonna happen next. They're gonna finalize their proposals. I will forward you those proposals sometime around the beginning of the semester when school begins, you all.
Okay.
And then we'll have our first jury in early October. I don't remember the exact date right now. Somebody probably has it written down here, but that will be, our first get together with this group in person. Students, if you have any questions of Dave or Sheeta or Francesco, you're welcome to, they're your committee, right? You can reach out to them. And then likewise, faculty, you can reach out to the students if you have other ideas or questions.
Sean, I will tell you in the October meeting, I will be zooming in because I'll be in Arezzo.
That's fine. This was good
I
practice.
guess we'll
Yeah.
allow
For
it.
us-
Great practice.
For us to try it out. Just to let you know, I've been Zooming with Francesco in Rome and one of his students, Rajith, in Arezzo every week, and it's been working fine.
Good. Yeah, it does. It does. Okay.
Okay, I will
Thank
let
you
you
guys
all
for-
go.
Thank you for your presentations. I'm excited about the projects. They're like every time. Good project. Sean's helped you put something together. And you guys are smart. And already, I think, have done a good job of thinking through the process. So good presentations.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to it.
Thank you, guys.
See y'all.
Good night.
See you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.